Getting a proper ECG recording is very crucial for any interpretation to make sense. Wrongly obtained ECG can change the whole meaning. In this video, we understand various different ways of obtaining an ECG trace. I am Dr. Naman Agrawal. Let's get started.
So how can you get an ECG recording? Either you can see and connect the patient on chest leads on the monitor, or you can get a 12 lead ECG via an ECG machine. These are the two ways of getting the ECG trace. Typically, when the patient is very unstable or in cardiac arrest, you do not withhold the resuscitative efforts to get a 12 lead ECG through a machine. What you do is that you attach the patient on the monitor and you see the ECG trace, whatever the trace is. Based on the trace, you try to get some information based on the 1 or 2 leads which you get. So the downside is that only 1 or 2 leads are displayed at a time. You won't get a 12 lead data on most of the monitors, at least. Okay, you can very well do a rhythm analysis. You can see various components of PQRST, and as we read subsequently, you can diagnose various arrhythmias seeing this trace, and any gross abnormal findings can be picked up on this ECG monitor. Once you have a concern about these gross abnormalities, and if the time allows and the patient general condition allows, you should definitely confirm it by getting a 12 lead ECG done. Okay, and the other way of getting an ECG is directly getting a 12 lead ECG through a machine. So this is an ECG machine, and this is the apparatus. These are the limb leads to be applied at the limbs, and these are the suction cups for the chest leads. So this is the lead position. The limb leads are applied in the right arm, left arm, and the left foot, and there is a neutralizing lead in the right foot as well. Named from V1 to V6, the individual chest leads are. The V1 position of the V1 chest lead is 4th intercostal space, parasternally on the right side of the patient's chest, of the right side of the patient's sternum. Okay, this is the breastbone. Just on the right side in the 4th intercostal space is the position for V1. V2 is just the chest leads are applied left-sided adjacent to the sternum in the 4th intercostal space. V4 is the one in 5th intercostal space in the mid-clavicular line or the mammary line. You see the clavicle, draw a midline, draw a vertical line through it, okay, and horizontally at the level of 5th intercostal space. That is a position for V4 lead. V3 is something which is between V2 and V4. Okay, so this is midway between V2 and V4. V5 and V6 are also in the 5th intercostal space. V5 is at the anterior axillary fold, anterior axillary line, and V6 is at the mid axillary line. So these 6 leads of the chest, so there are 6 chest leads, 3 standard limb leads, which are lead 1, lead 2, lead 3, and 3 augmented limb leads. Augmented, they are nomenclatured as AVR, AVL, and AVF. These 6 chest leads plus 3 and 3, 6 limb leads total gives you a 12 lead ECG tracing. Okay, so this is how you apply the ECG leads to get a 12 lead ECG tracing. However, there can be modifications and additions to this. Now this we studied about the 12 lead ECG. Now if you apply these leads on the right side of the patient's chest, they become right sided chest leads, nomenclatured as V3R, V4R, V5R, and V6R. There are special conditions in which you need to get these right-sided leads done. Also, we can extend from V6, we can go ahead to V7, V8, and V9 at the posterior part of the patient's chest. Okay. Again, there are specific conditions in which you need to get these leads, and these are called posterior chest leads. Okay. The beauty of these chest leads are that they look into various directions and various walls of the heart. Now the heart is oriented, okay, let me get rid of all this. The heart is oriented something like this. Okay, here the great vessels coming like this and the pulmonary trunk this way. Okay, so as you can see, the right ventricle and the septum is seen by the V1 and V2. V3 and V4 look at the left ventricle anteriorly, and then they V5, V6 look at the left ventricle from the side. We'll see as to which lead sees which wall of the heart, but you can appreciate at this point, at this arrangement, that various leads, various chest leads, V1, V2, V3, V4, V5, they look at heart, various walls of the heart circumferentially from different angles. Okay. Apart from the 12-lead ECG trace and the monitor, which are typically used for the emergency patients, there are many patients who present with indications requiring prolonged ECG monitoring. Typical example of such patients include patients who have presented with undiagnosed cause for a stroke, who require rhythm analysis for presence of an occult or hidden atrial fibrillation. These patients have a machine and electrodes attached to their body for prolonged durations, for example 12 to 24 hours or longer, and the machine keeps on recording the patient's ECG rhythm. The data at the end of the monitoring is retrieved and is analyzed for any rhythm changes, runs of atrial fibrillation or ventricular tachycardia. Other unconventional ways of obtaining an ECG are also coming up. Now the technology is getting advanced and coming up with simpler ECG machines which can be used by the general public at their homes. The trace gets recorded on a smart device, which can then be communicated to an expert for further comments and suggestions. Many companies are coming up with this kind of a technology, but many of them still need to be validated through clinical studies. As a disclaimer, this video is not sponsored by any of the companies. However, for the rest of the video, we'll stick on to the 12-lead ECG trace obtained from a conventional ECG machine in the emergency department. Okay, so this is a typical 12-lead ECG trace. As you can see, lead 1, 2, 3, AVR, AVL, AVF, and 6 chest leads ranging from V1 to V6. This is a 12-lead ECG trace. Before going to reading the ECG starting from V1, lead 1 to V6 and all, there are various hidden areas at the periphery of the ECG. It is very important to have a note, keep a note of these areas, and they are very, very important. The first thing is the patient identifier. Okay. If there is no provision for entering the patient name before getting the ECG print, after getting a 12-lead ECG, you should always mention the patient's name so that it does not get mixed up with other patients, and a follow-up ECG can be compared if it is properly labeled. Okay. Next thing you see is the calibration. This is the y-axis calibration and this is the x-axis calibration for an ECG. Normally, the speed of an ECG trace is 25 millimeters per second. This is the normal one. And calibration wise, you can see 10 millimeter equal to 1 millivolt. Okay, so this is the marking for 10 millimeters and that denotes 1 millivolt. These calibrations can be changed from x-axis and y-axis can be changed in order to gain additional information in various special situations. Okay, which brings us to the graph paper of the ECG. As you can see, if I'm enlarging this, there are various points at various intervals. So this form a large box, and each large box you can see is divided into small boxes like this. Okay, each small box is 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter in dimension. Okay, so the width is 1 millimeter and the height is 1 millimeter, and 5 small boxes make one large box. Okay, so the 5 small boxes in the x axis and the 5 small boxes in the y axis make up one large box. This is about the graph paper. We'll see how the calibration works there. Okay, after the calibration thing, there is an area which tells us about the intervals of the ECG trace. Tells us about the PR interval, the QT interval, the QRS axis, etc. So this tells us about this the machine calculates through its algorithm various intervals. You'll see what those intervals mean and what they are about. Okay, just be aware that there is an area which calculates the intervals. There is also an area which interprets the ECG based on machine algorithm. Okay, there are various machine algorithms which are fed in the ECG machines which can interpret based on standard patterns of an ECG. So as you can see that this machine is suspecting an anterior myocardial infarction, which may or may not be correct. So the point of concern is that this is a very notorious part of an ECG trace. Very, very notorious. This could over-diagnose some conditions. and underdiagnose some conditions. Okay, so it's very easy to miss a lot of life-threatening conditions also, or to make a lot of wrong decisions if you just read this part of an ECG trace rather than reading the 12 leads individually and comprehensively. So you should be very, very cautious, and you should not directly believe whatever is written in this part of the ECG trace. This many times is not correct. However, the intervals are calculated as they are in the ECG trace, so this is quite reliable. The calculation of intervals is quite reliable, but this part where the diagnosis is made is quite unreliable. Okay, this tells us about the anatomy of the ECG lead. So we have discussed the various ways in which you can obtain an ECG trace. If you found this video useful, do hit the like button. Leave your topic suggestions in the comment box below and subscribe to ECG Sadhana for more interesting ECG content. Until then, stay healthy and keep saving lives.